in the comments. And here we go again, talking about.
Yo, what's up and what's happening, TPE family? My name is Alex Seal, and I'm so happy to be with you all today on another episode of the Pivot Experience. On today's episode, we're talking about, well, not necessarily talking about, but the title of this episode is The Phase I'm On Love. And it's kind of coincidental that I chose to title this episode this, and I just recently celebrated 20 years of service at Chick-fil-A, in which, I'm kind of conditioned not to celebrate different things. I more so have the mindset of like, what's next? We reach milestones, we achieve goals, and I kind of don't pause and just kind of take in the moment, but I had already picked this episode title, and I've already wrote the episode, and I thought it was just fitting to kind of elaborate a little bit more on my story, and how I kind of gotten to this point where I'm at over the last 20 years with my employment at Chick-fil-A. And I just kind of want to give some general insight on I guess some core things that I believe that have contributed to the success that I've had over the years at Chick-fil-A, and just kind of what my mindset is around how I got to where I got to, and I think that more so the genesis of this subject, or the genesis of this thought, again, just coincidentally, this is my 20-year anniversary, but it's more so I feel like when you're in a space for so long, and if you've achieved any level of success or any level of performance, if you performed at a high level, there's things that come with that, especially when you've been able to sustain it or produce results at a high level consistently over time, right? And so I tend to think, particularly in the line of business that I'm in, a lot of people don't stay around for as long as I've been in this position. They usually we like to position the job to be a stepping stone into your career. That's why we have a lot of high school, college age students, or individuals that are just working with us, acquiring skills, leadership skills, and how to work a job until they get on to their next phase in life. Once they graduate college, or they take on a trade or whatever that is. And so for me, being here for as long as I have, I've had it's a gift and a curse almost of being able to work with people, off and on, just throughout the years. And at a certain point, particularly at this stage in my career, I think we get newer people in, or newer people start to develop, and then they may not understand I guess how I got to where I got to, or just how, or understanding, what has went into my way of thinking, what has went into, how I'm able to operate in the capacity that I am. And so again, I just wanted to kind of, just share some stories, and so just some examples of, just what, the concepts of how I feel like the foundation of where I've gotten to is sitting on, and there's three general things that, I kind of think that have contributed to my success, or just what my current trajectory is in life. The number one item is just to outwork the room. The second one is to get nosy, and then the third one is just to learn to value relationships early. So I think those three things, man, you don't have to have any formal training, or you don't have to have any particular certifications to be able to produce in these areas. So without much further ado, I'm just going to jump into just the meat of what it is that we want to talk to. And before I do that, I apologize. Shout out to all of our subscribers, man. New subscribers, man. We hit an all-time high recently in our subscribership, and so I appreciate those who have taken the time out to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Also, just any feedback that I've received over the last couple of weeks regarding the content and just regarding what we're putting out. I definitely appreciate all of that, all of the feedback that everyone's been giving us, just kind of helping us get more comfortable and helping us get better this venture or this phase that we're currently in life right now. Um, and just to to speak to whatever like I always say on every episode, this is the TPE, where we focus on progress over perfection. We focus on getting out of the box and really starting to challenge yourselves to grow as much as you can, and to get a hold of steering your life in the direction that you want to go in. So, okay, now that that's out of the way, let's jump into outworking the room. Outworking the room. I'm going to go out and just say this is, again, the three things I want to talk about today they don't require any additional training or certification on your end. I think these things are primarily things that you make a decision to pursue every single day. Okay, like you make a decision to pursue outworking the room every day. That's your call. No one else can do that for you. There might be people around you, supervisors, who may expect you to step up and produce more. However, this has to be something that you want to do. And in my mind, the idea of having high work ethic is universal. You can starting tomorrow, starting today, make a decision to say, you know what, I'm going to be the hardest worker that I can be. Number one, you focus on, hey, how do I focus on becoming the best version of myself? And then once you master, you feel like, the best version of you being the best version of yourself, then you start to look around you to see, okay, well, what does the field say is the best? When you look at it, depending on what you're doing, what line of work you're in. But I'm sure I always try to tell people in the context of their relationships, there's vertical and horizontal elements to every relationship that we have, right? So there's going to be people who perceivably work underneath me. A lot of times if you're a team member, if you're at that entry level position, there's not a lot of people who you might have authority over, other than the people who came into the job or to the profession, the organization after you, right? And then there's the people who work above you. Those are your supervisors, the ownership, the board of directors, whatever that may be. And then there's the horizontal aspect of your positioning, where there's people who are on equal footing and equal building with you. And so when you look at those, I guess those three, areas, it's what am I number one, am I performing better than someone that's newer than me? Am I outworking them? I ought to be. I have more tenure, I have more experience perceivably, then I should be able to outwork those individuals. And it's, again, let me add this in. It's not about being aggressive. It's not about creating a toxic atmosphere of competition. It's just literally an internal drive that you develop to be able to be the very best that you can be. And in my opinion, a key component of being your very best and how that is outwardly shown is you being able to produce results. And a lot of times when you're in entry level positions, that is a direct correlation to how much work you put out. So I just want to be clear in my articulation of this first point, is that when I say outwork the room, you want to outwork the room in all phases of whatever it is that you're doing. And I'm sure no matter what it is that you're doing, there's some level of camaraderie that needs to exist. So when you're pursuing this point, you don't want to taint or interfere with building positive camaraderie. So, because I think camaraderie is very important to the success of overall organizational growth. So you don't want to, again, in pursuing your individual success, you don't want to damage or take away from what the organization's success is in your pursuit of trying to outwork the room. Okay, so I just wanted to maybe put that disclaimer out there for anybody goes to work tomorrow or goes into their organization and trying to tear it up, and in the process they tear up relationships as well. So we definitely don't want to we definitely don't want to cause any issues in that regard. But like I said, I think again, just the idea of being present when, being present, showing up early, leaving later, being willing to pick up extra shifts when the business needs it, being willing to, again, just hang around, not say hang around to just milk the clock or just to be there, but literally, okay, you're off at a certain time and you notice that the organization or business needs you to be there, being willing to say, you know what, hey, I've got 15 minutes, 20 minutes, I can help get get the shift or get things back on track. You know what I mean? And so when I talk about outworking the room, it's those small things, and plus just being like I guess in my head, for lack of better words, and not to use a corny phrase, but you being a boss in any position that you're put in, I think is a, and I say being a boss and let me quantify that for those of you who are listening who may not maybe not understand where I'm coming from, but just having being, okay, say if you just say on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the very best, 1 being the worst, no matter where you're placed in the organization, you're able to perform at a 7 or 8 or better. You got those positions where, man, that's 1 or 2 things that you're a 10 in, but hey, I'm universally, I can serve for the most part. Wherever you need me to be, I'm willing to do that. And I think again, when we're talking about my journey and talking about how did I get to where I am, that was then one of my number one things. I would come to work. I was coming to work and say, all right, this is where they're positioning me. They're positioning me here every day. I started working. Okay, I've been working there 20 years. I started working when I was 14 years old. And so my main schedule was on Saturdays. And so I would come in and they would just position me on dining room. And then they'll position me to, wear the cow suit, which I'm totally fine with all those things. That's what was needed to happen. But in my head, I went, well, how do I advance or grow? I don't know if it was I don't exactly remember in my 14-year-old mind, was it, I was tired of doing the same positions, or did I wanted to prove to them that I could do more than just that, that I would look at, and this is, I'm sure people do this very thing to us now, but when I would look at the managers and leaders and go, I can do that. And I would try to position myself. And here's, I think there's a disconnect where, I think when people do it now, they may not put the action behind the words to prove that they can actually do it. Because for me, and I guess my viewpoint on leadership is that, I'm willing to prove it before you necessarily either recognize it or want to put me in the position to do it, and I think that's a lost mindset for a lot of people in our culture and society today, because they're more so wanting to be recognized for recognized and positioned for the work before they actually go and do the work. So, that's one of the things that I really gravitated and believed in too, is just that, hey, I'm willing to show up and show you consistently, over an extended period of time, that I have the capacity and I have the ability to be able to do this job at a high level. So, again, going or talking about our work in the room, all these different things kind of play into that. And I've got, just lots of examples of this instance. In my second grand opening, first of all, shout out to Chick-fil-A again. People ask me why have I been here for so long? I've had so many opportunities that speak to this. Chick-fil-A put me on my first plane when I went to a grand opening in California. But anyway, at my second grand opening, I was in Oklahoma, and this is by far one of the most unique experiences I've ever had. First, up until me going to that grand opening, me as an individual, I pretty much just in Beaumont, just where I live, we never really traveled much. My dad worked. I would, go from, Houston to Orange, with him, over the summers or whatever. But beyond Houston to visit family, never really traveled much. So, when I had these unique opportunities to go fly to California, go to North Carolina, go to Florida, all because of Chick-fil-A, that was pretty cool. But this one instance when I was in Oklahoma, man, I think that first week I was there, I was scheduled to be there 3 weeks. And that first week, I think I experienced every weather condition that you can experience living on Earth. I mean, the one day it rained, The one day it was, sunny, perfect weather. One day it snowed. One day it hailed. One day we had sleet. I mean, it was crazy. But anyway, I remember, when we touched down, and I was a kitchen manager at the time, and so a lot of my grand openings I did back of house operations. And I was closing, and closing, those of you, I mean, if y'all, any people, Chick-fil-A people out there, and when you close at the grand opening, you're getting out 11:30, 12 o'clock, minimum, just because you got a new team. You're trying to train and teach people how to shut down a restaurant while doing it. A lot of times this is these people's first and second time ever doing this, or a lot of people don't have they may not have Chick-fil-A restaurant experience, and so just them learning how we do things just takes a little time. And so there was two instances where I closed, and then the grand opening supervisor asked me to come back. He said, "Man, are you willing to come do truck in the morning?" And I was like, "Sure." And I said, "What time truck comes?" "Oh, it'll be here like at 4 o'clock." So we're getting out getting out at 12 o'clock at night, going home, not going home, going to the hotel, taking a shower, getting up again at 3:30, being back, from the hotel, and this, hotel living, and that's kind of was a shock to me. Again, didn't travel much, so just kind of getting accustomed to traveling. I'll never forget. I think my first or second flight, I brought everything. I brought my PlayStation. I had workout stuff. I just severely overpacked. And back then, I think United, you was a lot more friendlier with what you can bring on. I think you can stow two large bags, and you had your carry on. So I had plenty of space. But now that I think about it in hindsight, it probably wasn't the wisest thing to do in terms of bringing all that stuff and having to keep up with it. But anyway, closing at 12 o'clock and then getting up at 3:30 to go to do a truck. And at the time, the sales volume of this grand opening was probably, it was pretty high, considering the time. I mean, now I think the numbers that we were doing then are kind of like slow days now, but so we need, long story short, we need a lot of products. So these, I mean, just shimmying across the top of product in the freezer on 3 hours of sleep 2 or 3 times a week. And then being there 3 weeks, and that first week I think I clocked 80 hours. The second week I clocked 90 hours, and the third week I clocked another 80 hours. And so, and these were in the trenches hours. These wasn't like me, with COVID and everything else, there's a lot of things that have become digitized, and there's usually a lot of, and there's more ancillary work that can be done that's not as it's not as physical. But back then it was all, everything was, every hour that was put in was all physical, all just there. So definitely again, this is just an example of being willing to outwork the room. It was, hey, if I wasn't willing to work those hours, I'll never forget it. When I came back home from that grand opening, and I talked to my operator, and he was like, everybody at the grand opening was very impressed with your, number one, the amount of hours you were able to work, and then the level that you were able to work those hours during the time in which you were there. And so, that left an impression on those operators, the other operators that was there, and they gave me an opportunity to continue on to go to these grand openings. And so again, and so how this all worked out and played is that I think I was already in the trajectory to become the GM of our restaurant at, the general manager of our restaurant at 21 years old, just based off the work that I did at home, in the restaurant at home. And then when I went on the road, and then the representation that I was of, our city, of our operator, of the brand, I believe my operator, saw that and said, hey, well, I want to put you in this position in the store, because I feel like you will give us the best opportunity to be able to continue to grow. And that all stemmed from my willingness to outwork the room. And so that's kind of, I guess that's how I'll kind of stop right there on this one point, because I mean, I think I've driven the point home. I think Will Smith had a quote, and I say I've driven the point home, and I got something else to say, but I think Will Smith had a very good quote, and I don't have it exactly, but basically stating that, you might be more talented than me. You might have more skill. You might come from a better economic background than me. But if both of us are on a treadmill and we were both doing the same thing on a treadmill, that you would not beat me. And if you did beat me, it was because I was dead, because I wasn't going to stop. Like, I was going to go until I couldn't absolutely go anymore if we're both on the treadmill. It's kind of like saying, like, if we are both given the objective to do the same thing, and with no competitive advantages, and all it required is what is our willingness to work and produce work. That I won't let you beat me, or I won't let you advance over me, because I'm going to continuously be willing to do the work. And I think, it's things like that that kind of help shape and mold my thoughts around what am I going, how hard am I going to go at approaching whatever it is I do. If I wasn't at Chick-fil-A, I feel like, I would still have the same drive, the same work ethic to be able to, and to be able to go and do these things. And I think a lot of this also, shout out to my dad. I think my dad has a incredible work ethic. I've seen, that he's worked every day, every day of his life that I can remember, and no matter what was going on, he got up and got to it. And so, big time shout out to Pop, and kind of instilling that level of workmanship, and but again, point number one, outwork the room. Excuse me. Point number two is get nosy. And not only should you get nosy, but you should, I would say this to add to it, get nosy and add value. I think as a leader now in my current posture, one of the things that stick out the most to me when I talk to team members is if they get like inquisitive about what it is that we're caring about, or like they start asking questions about the things that we're posting to get more understanding, and then I see them taking that information and then actually like acting on it. To me, that's huge. And to me, that's one of the things that I think I did when I was much younger, was I just started asking questions, or start really paying attention to, well, what's important to my superiors, right? If I understand what's important to them, and then I start to add value and to impact those things, then at that point, maybe they'll start to recognize me in the context of I can join them, or I can help them achieve the goals they want to achieve, and then in turn would give me an opportunity to advance, right? And so, a short story here. We have a computer at work, and this is back when, this is pre-iPhone, pre Android, pre all that, pre smartphone. I mean, I think they had Blackberries, but I had a little flip phone. I had a Motorola Razr or something like that. Definitely didn't have near the capacity that we have now in computing, right? Mobile computing. And so we used to have a Windows computer in the back office. And what I used to do when we were slow, I would go into the office and I would just look at the files that were on the computer, and not to be, and it had nothing to do with trying to be vindictive or just or sneaky. It was more so like, okay, well, what's going on? I worked at night. At the time I was working nights, and typically a lot of times your core leadership, or your GM or developmental style leadership doesn't work, wasn't working at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night at the time. And so I would try to, and here again, this is when all the training material was printed. Pretty much, our internal mechanism, our internal website wasn't near as robust as it is now in terms of what was available information wise. So a lot of this stuff was in-house documents. A lot of the things that we did back then were derived from what we wanted to do in the restaurant. And so I took the time to look into those files, and I stumbled across a business plan. And and this is no knock to anybody or anything that was going on at the time. I think I was like, maybe 18, 19 years old, and I found this business plan. It was like one page, and hey, effective business plan, now knowing what I know, can be one page, and it can get across what you need to get across. But at the time I was like, well, I think we can do a better job of explaining what it is that we wanted to do and what it is that, we are setting out to do and what our goals are. So I think I took it upon myself to make my own. I made a business plan, and my plan and my idea was is that, okay, let me take this document that they already have and make my own. And what in my head, I'm like, well, what can they do to me, if I made a doc? I mean, this is not necessarily our official document, right? This is just me testing what I know, what I think I could do, and presenting that into the leadership. And I did that, but I never would have stumbled across that opportunity had I not gotten nosy, had I not wanted to be inquisitive, had I not wanted to learn more and do more. And it wasn't just a matter of me learning more and doing more just for the sake of it. It was more so just, okay, how can I take in this information, and then how can I use that to mold how I go about doing things, or how can I use this information to fuel or steer my thought processes, and so I can be position myself to be more valuable in the eyes of the leadership or the management. And I want to just, I guess, take a small pin in right here. And I think right now there's a large group of people in the culture that are moving towards entrepreneurship, which is phenomenal. I'm glad that there are so many people who are wanting to step up and become entrepreneurs, and they want to start their own businesses, and they want to do all these things. It's a great thing to see. And I think indirectly, a lot of times those people are speaking out against having a job or working a 9 to 5, or following someone else, essentially. And I think the one thing that me and my wife talk about all the time, and then one thing I guess I want to kind of just bring up, is that in your organization, if you do it right and you scale, you're going to have employees, team members too. And you're going to want them to be compliant, and you're going to, I mean, of course, you're going to have a mindset of wanting to see them eventually grow and go do their own thing. But you're going to look at them with the expectation of, hey, I've put in all of the work, and I'm asking you to manage or to oversee a certain area of it, and I expect you to do that to the best of your ability. And I think sometimes we forget the value in learning how to follow first, or not even first. I think you're always following in some capacity, no matter what you think you are, at your job or in your business. If you're a business owner, you're following and paying attention to the needs of your client, or your customer base. So that's always, I don't care what you do, if you're performing at a high level, or in executing, you're going to always have to answer to somebody in some form of fashion. So I just want to throw that in there real quick. But again, adopting the idea of getting nosy. I used to log into the back office suite for work and just click links to see what they said, just to kind of like, oh, what does this mean? What does that mean? Oh, okay. Well, I don't see us talking about this, and this is on here. Maybe we should, maybe I should, we should bring this up and put this on the table, and see how can we improve here, or how can we conform in this area that Chick-fil-A wants us to conform in. But taking the initiative to get nosy about the things that we want to advance and grow in, I think is important. It was an important leg of my journey. It was an important piece of my maturation in what I do. I think, just now, as I'm talking through this and thinking more about different things, and like when I think about just how we are catered to from social media, we are catered and we're given information. We have an algorithm that is feeding us things that it thinks we want to know. And I think sometimes that takes away the edge or the incentive for us to take the initiative to go out and learn things on our own, because there's an algorithm that is essentially dripping things that it thinks that we want to know, and not necessarily considering the thing, all the things that we need to know, because we know what we need to know, what I mean. And so anyway, but just get curious about what it is that you're doing. And I think that's a healthy practice. I think that's a healthy thing to do just in general. But again, if you're wanting to advance at a high level, and you wanting to grow and develop. Now, again, I mean, you gotta read the room. You gotta know your place. In my employment, that was totally welcomed. The management, the people that I was working for, they wanted people to step up and want to learn more and want to get engaged more. So you got to make sure you fill that out for yourself wherever you are. But the beauty of, again, look, I just kind of condemned our current era, but the beauty in what we're currently doing now in life, in terms of, you've got YouTube, you've got Google, there's plenty of content out there on, I'm sure, your lane of business, your occupation, or the things that you're currently doing. So, man, explore that. You've got to take some time to invest in yourself. And I think in getting this component of getting nosy is a component of self-development and self-improvement. And so you looking and reading and kind of just getting more familiar with what it is that you're doing, I think plays to your advantage big time. And the third and final piece, and I think this is very important, I think this is extremely important, and this is learning to value relationships early. Learning to value relationships early. I think sometimes we don't realize the people that we bump into early on in our lives tend to transition, as we all do, grow and transition into different things, and we don't know how we can impact each other on a positive level if we learn to value each other when we're all at the early stages of our growth and development, man. I think, and I kind of wrote this in my notes here, and I'll just kind of read this one. It says, who you know may not be all you need to get to the next level, but it sure can help, right? And I'll just share this one story. I mean, we live in a small city, about 120,000 people, give or take a couple thousand, right? And I've been here all my life. I went to elementary school here, middle school, high school, and there was a guy that I went to middle school with. He was a year older than us. Cool guy. I know people who know his younger brother. And I'm friends with them, and and we did some life early. I mean, and the life that we did early, the way we did life together early, and it wasn't like together. We were just in the same spaces early on, and that was dramatically different than what it is now. Now he sits on, now he's in a position that is very influential and has a lot of authority. And then, it matches well with what I'm currently doing in terms of, trying to impact the lives of our youth in our city. And that relationship that we has had for several years now, almost over 20 years I've known this individual, and the complexion or the complexity of that relationship has differed from when it started to in its current form. But it had I ever like stepped away from that relationship, or I did something that would have scarred that relationship, we wouldn't be operating in the capacity that we are in today. So, just learning to value people, learning to appreciate people, and if, for those of you who are listening to this, and if you wanting to own your own business or become a CEO or operate at a high level from a managerial standpoint, you're going to have to learn, I would hope before you get into those positions, how to value people, and so the earlier you learn to value people, the better. The earlier you get that, hey, I don't get the things that I want to get out of life unless I learn to work with other people and work well with them, not just on a surface level, but being able to create deep relationships that will contribute to the success of what you're currently doing, and then investing in those relationships as seeds to pay dividends, or to be harvested later on. And you don't do and let me be clear, you're not creating relationships totally out of motive, right? I think that we are designed and we're just made to work with people, and to create positive relationships. But I think a spillover benefit of doing that, of just being a good person towards people, that you understand that there is a lot of things that can be gained and a lot of things that you can give. It's not all about what you can get, but it's also what a relationship can position you to give. And I think that's the biggest thing for me. you know um Example, man, we have a Hobby Lobby right behind us, and the general manager of the Hobby Lobby would come through almost every morning and get a large unsweet tea. That was her thing. We saw, hey, how you doing? Large unsweet tea every day. Now she, is the executive director for Junior Achievement, and Junior Achievement is primarily the whole reason why I work at Chick-fil-A, in the first place. And so when she approached us about being more involved in Junior Achievement, it just clicked, and we already had a previous relationship. So, it wasn't, there was no strain in her learning who I was or me getting familiar with who she was. We already had a basis of who each other were. And then once I was able to articulate what my Junior Achievement story was, it was just easy. Now, I sit on the board, on a Junior Achievements board for our local chapter, and then also I'm on the executive board as well. And so it's like the number one, and I think this is important for me to articulate, is that I like to impact the trajectory of the youth that's in our communities. And I feel like Junior Achievement gives me a organized, developed and supported means of doing that. And I think there's a micro lesson here. A lot of times we want to, we have the passions or the things we feel like are our passions, and we feel like we got to go reinvent the wheel and create something, and put our names all over something to create impact, versus plugging into something that's already functioning, that's already in place, and that already has a support system around it. And so, again, my relationship with the general manager from Hobby Lobby has given me an opportunity to be able to pour into what I believe is a part of my purpose, and that's helping change the trajectory of the youth in our community. So like, and so I think that correlation is a direct reflection of the power of relationships and the power of valuing those relationships more importantly. And so just getting to learn to not underestimate what people can, what skills people have, what level they're able to produce on. There's a lot of things that go in my mind that go into this idea of valuing relationships, because again, we all stand to learn and grow and develop from each other. I don't think, no matter, for me, no matter how many years of experience I have, I can always learn from someone. I think for me, particularly in this current phase of my career and current phase of my life, it's like, I'm older, and so I still work with the relatively same demographic. And so I get a chance to learn, how is the 18-year-old thinking right now? What challenges do they have? What things, what world pressures are on them? And I can have a better understanding of how to navigate this landscape of business with a new team member or a new employee. You know what I mean? So, we're always learning. And if you put valuing relationships, if you prioritize valuing relationships, your ability to learn, or the opportunity for you to learn new things and different ways of thinking and different perspectives is greater, because you haven't closed. I typically feel like, no matter where I am positionally, status or whatever, like, I've never closed myself off from connecting with anybody. I feel like, I've seen and felt uh all levels, multiple levels, I've come to, like I said, I've come to realize that, everybody has value, everybody has something to say, everyone definitely, can bring something to the table if you allow them to. I think a lot of times we forget that everybody comes from different backgrounds, everybody comes from different situations, and they have different worldviews. And no matter those things, you can still extract and build value from an individual. It's all about, how much leadership capacity you have and how much you want to pour into that individual, man. So, just learning to value relationships and learning to put them forward, I think are super important, man. And you don't I think a lot of times we underestimate the power that we have as people, and we underestimate the value that we can bring to other people in terms of, how can we boost their confidence, or give them or just giving people the courage to be able to step out and do something else. Like, your relationship with an individual could be the catalyst to help them be better. And I think sometimes we miss that. And again, so in terms of my success, like, valuing relationships has had so many different benefits, like, and I think the biggest one is just being able to connect and to collaborate with other young people to help them realize that, hey, help them realize certain concepts about life faster. I mean, I think there's a lot of us, who are older. We've all had to experience things as we go through them. And we may or may not have had someone who we've worked with that would care to take the time to be able to just dig a little deeper into what their situation is and kind of come down to where they are, so we can get a better understanding of what challenges they have, or some of the things that they are going through, and how do we address those items, and then move forward in helping them grow out of it. And so, yeah, man, I can go on and on and on about the power of relationships and the power of connectivity. I said this in the earlier podcast, in the earlier show. It's just like, and I think it was the show involving the three things employers are looking for in great team members. It's that connectivity, like, and this goes to that, how much, as the leader, in my current posture, and as for you, who are someone who's either trying to become a better leader or trying to get into leadership itself, it's how much are you valuing the people that you interact with on a day-to-day basis? One, how much are you valuing the people that you don't interact with all the time, but you might have a one-off bump into? I think that I tell people, and this is maybe a little secret that I'm telling, that I don't know, may not be that big of a deal, but anyway, I tell people all the time, like, one of the most valuable times for me when meeting new team members is me having a chance to bump into them, and I wasn't introduced to them by anybody, they have no clue who I really am. So that, to me, gives me the only glimpse of, like, actually, who are you? Before you get to figure out, oh, I'm the Alex is the executive director, and Alex is this, or Alex is that. Like, I get a really clear picture of, okay, what is your real makeup when it comes down to dealing with a stranger, or dealing with somebody who you don't know, because you're going to be dealing with that level of client, or that level of person, all the time. So just again, for those of you who are listening, who may be trying to break through, how you approach people and how you connect with them, and when you intersect with someone, what is the impression that person walks away with is important. And so learning to value, you create micro relationships when you have those micro interactions with people. So just learning to valuing that, man. All right, man, that is going to wrap up and just conclude the show today. Again, I'm still in the, I guess, in the mindset of acknowledging, the time spent at Chick-fil-A, and I'm just, very appreciative of the opportunity that I've had to work there, and like I said, and all these things stack and build on top of each other, and all, the last 20 years of my employment there has gotten me to this point to have the courage to do something like this. And so, I'm very happy and appreciative of all of the confidence and the leadership abilities that have been instilled in me through my journey here. And I just wanted to just impart, like, these three things. I'm just going to, kind of go over the topics again. Outworking the room, getting nosy, and learning to value relationships early are some things that I definitely think that we all could do without much specialized training or skills. We all can do these things, and we can definitely improve ourselves starting now. And so, man, I hope that today's show was beneficial, and I hope today we added some value and we was able to push the needle forward a little bit for you. This was the TPE. Again, this is where we push progress over perfection. Shout out to my family as always for giving me the opportunity to be able to create this platform and to invest into this platform and trying to create something that will, I hope, bring value to our community, and hopefully we can see I can contribute to the landscape of people who are influencing the next wave and next generation of leaders. And so, as always, love who you are, love what you do, and strive to be a better version of yourself each and every day. I am out. Peace.